Next on Primary Care, the science behind living better longer.
If you could only do one thing, and you're not a known diabetic, get a continuous glucose monitor.
Hello and welcome to Primary Care, the show dedicated to improving the health and care of African Americans. I'm your host, Dr. Lonnie Joe. Last time on Primary Care, we discussed 4 key areas of fitness: physical, social, nutritional, and mental. Today, we continue that discussion examining the biology behind them: glycation, oxidation, and autophagy. With us again is Dr. James Blessman, Assistant Professor of Family Medicine and Public Health Sciences at Wayne State University School of Medicine. He's helping us translate the science of aging into real steps people in Detroit and across Michigan can take to live healthier and longer lives. James, thank you for joining us again.
Absolutely.
Listen, this is one of the most exciting topics that I can point to in healthcare or our lives as a whole today, because I think at the end of the day, all of us want to live longer. All of us want to feel better. We avoid all of the pitfalls of health and live longer. That's kind of what we strive for. Tell us how glycation, oxidation, and autophagy play a role in health overall.
Okay, so these 3 processes, what I say is, if you're not addressing these 3 processes, you're really not helping people improve their health. So what is glycation? And I'm going to say, of those 3, glycation is probably the most important to understand and to try and prevent. They're all important. So glycation is when a sugar sticks itself onto a protein, all right? It's glycation. Now, from the time that you were born, right, single cell was all the instruction to make all of you: eyes, nose, mouth, liver, kidney, all that kind of stuff. You knew how to make it, where to make it, when to make it, where to put it, all that type of stuff. I dare say that instruction still is inside of your body. And you only have carbohydrates, proteins, and fats to work with to make all of that stuff. Okay. But not only do you have to make all those structures, you have to make the workers that make those structures. Those are things like receptors, antibodies, all that type of stuff. And when the workers are working, they're moving, they're folding and unfolding. They have to change shape to be able to do the things that they're doing. When I stick a sugar on there, it's like sticking a stick in the gears of a mechanism. So it's trying to move and it goes like this, so it can't move anymore. So what glycation is doing is it's paralyzing your workers. Now we know that this is bad because if you look at diabetics, as they're glycosylating hemoglobin, because we're measuring sugar stuck on the hemoglobin, as that goes up, the health goes down. As their glycosylated hemoglobin goes down, it goes up. Mm-hmm. Where we make the mistake is we think they're only glycating hemoglobin. Well, you're not. You're glycating the linings of your blood vessels, making it stiff, because like if you take sugar, put in water between your fingers, as it dries, it gets sticky. So you make your vessels stiff, raises your blood pressure. You're glycating your joints, the muscles, the tendons. You're glycating the lens in your eye. So all of these tissues now become, it's harder for them to do the things that they're supposed to do. So on the issue of blood pressure, I may give you something to lower your blood pressure, but if I'm still allowing glycation
to take place,
it's not correcting the problem. So we talked before about fixing the wrong thing. So you have to do that as an issue. Now you might ask, okay, well, why does this occur? It occurs really because of probably 3 things that you have to pay attention to. One is the amount of sugar that you get in your diet, okay, kind of bad as sugar. The other is fructose itself, and the sneaky thing about fructose is that it does more glycation than glucose, but it's not really measured.
Right.
Right? We don't really capture that. So you can get a lot of of fructose in your diet and not be aware that you're glycating a lot of your system. But there are some things that can let you know. But the other sneaky way that it comes in is by cooking methods.
Mm-hmm.
So when that browning process of meat in particular, which is called the Maillard reaction, is actually causing what's called advanced glycation in products. So as you go from baking to frying to grilling, you know, that black stuff on the meat that we like so much is protein that has been changed into an unrecognizable form, and it actually creates inflammation within the body. So it does two things. The protein is now not available to make more workers. You have to go in and expend energy to break those particular bonds, right? And that energy can't be spent on other things. And so that's why glycation itself is so bad, because it interferes with your body's ability to regulate.
But we don't read labels in this country adequately.
That is correct.
And I, just recently saw something somewhere how basically this common disease known as arthritis, and particularly osteoarthritis, has turned out to be somewhat of a storage disease based on sugar intake. And over years in this country, okay? And if you go back into the early 50s and we look at common things that were on the shelves in the grocery store that are currently there now, all we do over time, on decade, is see the content change. And the big change in a lot of these are addition of sugar. It'll list naturally occurring sugars and added sugar that goes in there. So we have accumulated sugar to a massive amount, probably starting with the advent of thinking that cereal was a good thing in the morning to eat, okay? So basically, if I hear you correctly, we're doing it to ourselves.
Oh, no question about it. And let me say something else about that, because you hit on another important point, because you talked about gradual over time. So there's this concept of half-life, right? So what half-life means is, if I have this amount today, after the half-life is gone, I have half of that amount, and after the half-life is gone, then I have half of that half, and so on and so forth. Okay. Well, when you look at the half-life of glycated protein, so you have a glycated protein, your body's trying to take rid of it. It's different tissues. It takes longer for certain tissues for you to get rid of that. So, and it's measured not in days, kind of in weeks and months, and sometimes years when it comes to bone. So the thing that gets you in trouble, where people say, well, yeah, I know that this is not good for me, but all things in moderation. Well, if your moderation is happening more than once a week or once a month, it's just accumulating. And so you never get to the point where it can recover, because you're always adding to that. And so people just need to realize that. And some tissues, like the lens, it never goes away. So then what you got to have the cataract removed, right? Because now you have proteins are glycated, not working for you anymore. So it is a process. You do need to learn how to read the labels, because sugar will be disguised as many things.
Sure.
So educate yourself on what it looks like, and learn how to identify it and minimize the amount that you're taking in.
Certain items will have 8, 10, 15 different sugars called different names in the same product, including fructose, which, probably nobody should ingest, even disguised as health food. Okay? And if you don't understand what these things really are, you will actually continue to exist thinking that it is good for you, when in actuality the opposite is what's correct. Educated customers, consumers, patients is always best to do that. Let's go back to some basics that we still use to try to counsel people along these lines, because they're not going to go away. Things such as your weight, your waist size, your blood pressure, fasting insulin levels. How does all of those continue to aid us with patients in this world that's constantly changing.
So if I can rephrase that, you want to give people information on how to know that they have a problem and how to track that in some sense. So the first thing that I would say is, remember, it goes back to it's interfering with your workers and your ability to produce energy. One of the first signs that you have a problem is you're tired. And you're tired in a way that it doesn't really recover with rest, all right? And so, but what people would normally do is they go to the caffeine, they go to the energy drinks, again, taking away the symptom, but not correcting the problem and allowing the problem to progress until it shows up as other things. I would say if you could only do one thing, and you're not a known diabetic, get a continuous glucose monitor, which you can actually get now without a prescription.
Right. They're a little pricey, but they're available.
They're a little pricey, but you don't have to. Here's the thing. $100 for, you'll get a month's worth of data. And you will learn what is driving your blood sugar above 100 and 140 or so, and you'll self-correct.
I love those devices. I mean, in the diabetic world, they've been life-changing. But now we're shifting exactly what you're saying. The non-diabetic needs to know what they're doing on a daily basis, the choices that they're making that is driving their blood sugar up, because it's going to tell you. And that way you can begin to intelligently select and eliminate from your diet.
Let me tell you, I've worn one. I've got it a couple times. I actually have mine just ended because my kids got me an Oura ring for Christmas, which I love this. I love this thing.
You like that, huh?
Oh my God! I got Apple Watch, I got Oura ring, and so I try and check my metrics and all that type of stuff. But what I learned was, first of all, these things are measuring your blood sugar in the interstitial space, which, from a biology, is probably more important than what is in the blood itself, right? Because that's what's happening at the tissue level in terms of glycation. And what I found was, there were, the first thing I recognized is there were meals that I could eat and my blood sugar would stay at 100, which was contrary to what I thought as a physician. I always thought you eat, your blood sugar goes up, it comes back down. Eat, blood sugar goes up, goes back down. I didn't know you could eat and your blood sugar doesn't change.
Right.
And I went, okay, interesting. The other thing I noticed was I had a bag of potato chips. Blood sugar goes up to like 140, comes down over the course of an hour or so. I end up having a salad, which again was not fried, because remember I talked about high temperature cooking. Everything in there is kind of raw. There's no change in my blood sugar. I had some fried rice with tofu. Blood sugar spikes again, and it took much longer to come down. Now, I'm not symptomatic. It's not going over 200, but I'm over 140. I'm glycating. What that tells me is I continue to do that in my 70s. Somebody's going to say, hey, you got a little blood sugar problem.
Yeah, you're diabetic.
You're diabetic. That's correct.
Right.
Because
your patterns that you're developing mimic the person who was diagnosed 20 years ago as a diabetic, because that's the way your metabolism is functioning.
So I tell you, you get one of those, you'll self-correct. I teased my mother because I was talking to my mother about some things, one of which was bread and whatnot. And she wrote, okay, she eat it, she doesn't feel particularly good, but she kept eating. I put a continuous glucose monitor on it. She saw it spike. She was like, I'm not eating bread anymore. Well, I'm not saying don't ever eat bread.
Right, but
at least understand what you're doing so that now you have a choice about how you want to proceed. And that's really what it's all about, is just making sure you have a choice. So that's in the glycation piece, I would say that. Other things that are helpful, I think scales, paying attention to waist size. I mean, as people metabolically develop problems, they tend to have more weight that goes around the belly. So that when you see that kind of going out there, there's problems. When your blood pressure is starting to go up, you got a problem. You got to pay attention to that also. So I recommend people have blood pressure cuffs at home to be able to check it, because sometimes you go in the doctor's office, it can be thrown off. It might be higher than what you think, just because people are stressed and all that type of stuff. Of which, let me just say this. We talked about glycation coming from sugar, from fructose, from advanced glycation end products. The other place that it comes from is stress, because stress will drive up your blood sugar, and now you're in the range of being able to glycate again if it's not coming down. And what happens is people live in this place of stress, so they're always activated, and it will actually age you.
Okay.
So you got to pay attention to that.
Good segue to oxidation.
Okay.
Good. Talk
Okay.
about that, because oxidative stress is real. We've
Yes.
learned a lot about it over the last several years in terms of outcomes in patients. And even with the few people that the 30, 40, whatever it turns out to be, people were saying, let's see how you do with a continuous glucose monitor, even though you're not a diabetic. We get the pushback and stuff. Now, I probably shouldn't say this on camera, but we get samples. and it gives us the opportunity to say, hey, let's see what happens. Just collect some data and see what happens here, okay? And in these situations, stress comes out as a factor. What happened at this point in time that was happening? Because it's all recorded on your phone.
Right.
You can look at it and say,
Right.
you know, what was going on?
Right.
Stress is a factor.
Oh my God. So this is how I realized that, because now I'm wearing a continuous glucose monitor, and I'm like in meetings, and I'll see a bump in my blood sugar, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I kind of pride myself in being kind of cool and calm and all that type of stuff. But again, these are things that if you don't check, you're unaware of that as an issue. So I just say, get the information. But oxidative stress. So what oxidative stress is, or oxidation, is anytime you're metabolizing something, you're creating waste products within the cell, okay? And that's called, oxidation and the generation of what's known as reactive oxygen species. As those increase within the cell, it interferes with the functioning of the cell. It's kind of like when we talked before about sharpening your saw. Now your axe is getting dull, but you're still requiring the same amount of work from the cell.
Same energy.
So now it requires more energy to get the work done, and you don't have that energy to spend on other things. And so you have to pay attention to what you're asking the cell to do. So there are certain things like the metabolism of saturated fats that require more energy than metabolizing unsaturated fats, and so on and so forth. So, but it's not only that. The beauty of paying attention to oxidation, because I stated before, everything that comes into your body has to figure out what to do with that, okay? And so part of the solution is what I call strategic rest. I mean, you might require the cell to do something, but if you allow it enough time to recover, then it doesn't overheat and burn out.
Sure, typical pancreatic function in the body.
Yeah, but if you just keep hammering on it, hour by hour, you got all the snacks on you pop the candy, you got the people coming by your desk all the time, the mints, blah, 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 blah. You're doing that all the time. You never give yourself a break.
Right.
If you don't pay attention to how you sleep, you never really give yourself a break, those type of things. And so all of those things, again, what it is really doing is cellular burnout. So you have to pay attention to what you're requiring the cell to do, and what's going to be consuming more energy, and you have to make sure you have some breaks. And people don't realize, because we talked about the meetings and stress and all that type of stuff, the brain, I believe it's like 3% body weight, it consumes about 20% of your calories. It's a very metabolic, organ. So it generates a lot of waste. And then if you're glycated, so you can't regulate to get rid of
the waste.
all the waste, then you got even more problems.
Right. It builds up.
It builds up.
The body says, what do I do with this?
Right.
Okay. Where do I put it?
Right.
Yeah, Dr. Blessman is continuously doing this to me. He's not going to do anything to hurt us. Okay, he's smart. He's not going to do anything to hurt us. But what do I do with the waste product, the byproduct of what's going on? You know, the old story of glycogen storage diseases come into play. But here again, for the audience standpoint of view, we can do something about this.
Yes, you can.
Okay, I mean, all we got to do is start understanding better, getting an understanding, and paying attention to these issues, okay, should lead to better outcome, better results.
Absolutely.
That longevity should be in place here if we do some of these things. But
It is in reach, and you can get there if you pay attention to some things. I'll tell you, because you kind of lead into it from some of the things you say about clearing all that out. So that's really what
autophagy.
Autophagy, okay? So it's autophagy, which means self-eating, okay? But what it is doing is it's basically recycling damaged goods, okay? So when the cells burn out or whatever, you want to be able to get rid of those things. And the beauty is if you get rid of them and recycle the parts, now you recycle the protein, now you need less protein from the outside in order to do it. But if you're not recycling, now you need more protein. The other problem with it is that if you're not getting rid of the damaged goods, just think what happens in your home when you have a room that you don't clean. Eventually, the rest of the house will start not to function well. Okay, so you got this process of self-cleaning that you got to do. So what interferes with autophagy? Turns out what turns autophagy off is insulin. So every time you drive up your blood sugar, which increases your insulin, it turns off autophagy. So if you don't have any breaks, you know, kind of in your day, or you know, like you hear a lot about intermittent fasting and that type of thing, or decreasing your eating window, it's allowing time, particularly if you cut off your eating kind of early evening. That means that by the time you go to sleep, the insulin levels are low, you can enter autophagy, and you'll do a lot of self-cleaning. In fact, a lot of healing occurs during the sleeping hours. So if your sleep is poor, or you've had a meal before you've gone to bed, then you can't enter this issue of recovery. And people don't realize, a lot of people try and thrive, oh, I only need like 2 hours of sleep and I'm good. No, that's not true. You might think you're good, but you're not.
we get food because we can continue to function.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not quality.
Well, you don't know that you're asleep until you wake up. So, right? So, and sometimes people, when they get better habits, they give them more energy, they say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize what was going on, because they've been beat down for so long. They don't know what good feels like. And that's a problem. But once you get a taste of that, once you get a taste of feel good,
You want some more feel good.
You want some more feel good.
Right.
Absolutely.
How about that? So if we had to leave the viewers with 3 things in terms of improving longevity, what would you choose?
I would, in terms of practices, if I could only do one thing, it would probably be meditation. And the only reason I say that is much of our behaviors are because of how we're wired. And if you can't change the wiring, you can't change the behavior. And meditation will create the space that allows you to kind of 2 things. It creates the space for recovery, and it creates the space for rewiring your brain. If I could pick another thing, it would be exercise, and exercise outside. I think we're going to find that there is something from sunlight that you can't get even from vitamin D that benefits you, that increases your mitochondria. And you might say, well, why didn't you say sugar? Well, sugar, because what will happen is if you do the meditation piece, you'll land on the sugar. And let me just say one thing about that. You look at Chris Palmer's work, he's a psychiatrist. He tells the story of a woman who was schizophrenic at the age of 17 because, she was, she had childhood trauma, all that type of stuff, schizophrenic. Okay, we get that. 70 years on antipsychotics. 50 years on antipsychotics. She's now 70 years old, okay? And a lot of antipsychotics, because medications can affect your oxidative load, they cause you to gain weight. So he put her on a low carbohydrate diet, not for her schizophrenia, for her weight. Mm-hmm. Within 6 months, not only was her weight down, she was no longer schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No need of antipsychotics. Mm-hmm. After 50 years, that just tells you, again, glycation interfering with function, mm-hmm. including brain function, and the body's always trying to find its way back. You get out of the way, mm-hmm. you'll find your way back.
How about that? I asked you at the outset, how did you get into this? And I know you're driven. The passion is truly there. That's, beyond compare. What's the next steps for you in this arena?
Well, I'm gonna try and hold it together, because when I get here, because I'm really gangster, But sometimes I get on this and I'll become tearful, and don't let that scare you. I know that I'm saying the right thing when that happens, but I'm just tired of the death. See, it's not supposed to happen. But it's just, I'm talking people in their 40s, 50s, being put in the grave, man. And it doesn't have to happen. I can't take it. So I'm throwing my hat in the ring. I've been silent too long. It's gonna be different. I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be, keep an eye on me, because I'm coming after this. I got a thing I call a citizen report card. I'm trying to create City of A's. It's really about social fitness, because I think when we correct our social relationships, because it's too much trauma out there that's causing people to do the wrong things, and that's what I'm gonna do. Create City of A's. I don't know how I'm gonna build that boat. Somebody gonna help me. I just know what I gotta do. I'm gonna stay on that. I'm gonna make it happen.
When is the book coming out?
Actually, it's funny you say that. I've already finished my first draft.
Okay.
Name of my book is Giving Yourself Permission to Heal. Mm. I've done my first draft. I'm working on my second. So stay on me. Don't. If it's not out before the end of the year, I owe you dinner. Okay.
Yeah, we do that anyway.
We do that anyway.
Dr. Blessman.
Amen.
Outstanding. What can I say?
All right, thank you
so much.
You're making me cry, man. I'm just,
that's okay.
I'm gangster.
Crying is good.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
Crying is good. Yeah,
okay.
That's fine. Our guest has been Dr. James Blessman, Assistant Professor of Family Medicine and Public Health Sciences at the Wayne State University School of Medicine. When we understand what's happening inside our bodies, we can take better control of how we age. Small, consistent changes today can mean stronger, healthier years ahead. Thank you for watching. For Primary Care, I'm Dr. Lonnie Joe.